to 59 is backed up with traffic trying to get around this. Eastbound 52 in Shorewood. Jefferson has a big jam. River Road to I-55. Farther north, the inbound Stevenson is heavy. 83 to the Des Plaines River Bridge after a crash there. 45 minutes, 355 to Lakeshore Drive. Eastbound 390 at Meacham. The right lane is blocked after a truck fire. That's traffic. I'm Jim Talamonte on AM 560, The Answer.
Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. Warm and humid in your forecast with clouds and sun and maybe an afternoon thunderstorm, high 87. Currently 68. Next news at 7, and Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Listen to AM 560 The Answer online at 560theanswer.com, on the AM 560 mobile app, on your Alexa-powered smart speaker, and on TuneIn, iHeart, and on Odyssey.
From the Matrix Home Solutions studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560, The Answer.
Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy, and it's fun that all of the Obama administration tricks are back now that we have Joe Obama's third term. One of them, you may remember, which began, I think, or hastened the loss of confidence in the federal government and the rule of law, was the IRS scandal, the IRS targeting scandal in the Obama administration, going after people and organizations based on their political and religious beliefs in terms of whether or not they would be conferred, for example, 501c3 status.
Right, like Tea Party groups, correct?
Tea Party groups, pro-life groups, and the like. Nobody ever held accountable. Nobody ever charged with anything, even though they were clearly in violation of acting in violation of Americans' constitutional rights and arguably criminally doing so. Nothing happened. What about now? And the timing of this leak. So Axios publishes illegally obtained IRS tax returns of rich people. And what's the top line? People like Jeff Bezos pay no income taxes. Oh, really? He doesn't take his $80 billion in salary. What a surprise. This is, by the way, the tax code that you all you institutionalists, all you beltway creatures set up, your lobbyists, with the carve-outs and the special dispensations and the complications to set up all sorts of cottage industries. And then you decry people who take advantage of the loopholes that they are able to obtain.
They're legal. Right.
Or that, essentially people obtain, lobbyists and other interested parties obtain for their benefit. You support rent-seeking, and then you don't like when people take advantage of what rent-seeking produces. Real consistent, as per usual, from the combine in D.C. like the combine in Chicago. But, you don't just get your hands, and not some, mid-level flunky doesn't get their hands on these documents. So it might be interesting to find out who, probably at the higher levels, who, or who, singular or plural, was able to get these documents and then get them over to Axios. I mean, that's also a violation of the law if people still care about that. And the timing couldn't be more interesting. Joe Biden is out pushing massive tax increases, even the suggestion of retroactivity, and now these wealthy individuals' tax returns are made public by Axios after being illegally obtained to make the customary point of the left that rich people don't pay any income taxes, which is why we should tax the middle-income people, which is essentially the sum and substance of their argument, although it's never presented that way. For more on this, we're pleased to be joined by Don Boudreaux. He's an economist, author, professor, co-director of the program on the American economy and globalization at the Mercatus Center at George Mason University. Don, thanks for being with us again. Appreciate it.
Always a pleasure, Dan and Amy.
What about this? It's not getting much attention, surprise, surprise, but this leaking of, a few wealthy people's tax returns.
I agree with with your implication, but I take your implication that the timing here is very curious. Look, Americans, I guess, like most people, right? Many of us are envious. Not me, but many of us are envious of rich people, and so we think the whole language they should pay their fair share. What's the fair share? They pay huge amounts of money in absolute dollars in form of taxes, and as you. I don't really have anything to add to what you said because you said it so beautifully. The tax code was set up in a certain way. Everything that these people did was perfectly legal under the tax code. The tax code is structured that way in order to get the thing passed in the first place. And so when people act in accordance with the tax code, whether they be really rich people or ordinary people, that's perfectly legal, and no one should be upset at people taking advantage of whatever provisions exist in the tax code. And that's what's going on here. But it's being painted, it's being portrayed, of course, falsely, as an example of how the rich are screwing the rest of us.
Well, right. And the other thing, though, too, is, I mean, just the IRS, I mean, this is the most powerful non-law enforcement or military agency in the federal government. And here we are again after the scandal I described a decade ago, you know, in a version of the same place.
Yep. I mean, it's you know, this is one of the problems that arises when constitutional limitations are taken off of government as we move closer and closer to a pure majoritarian, you know, raw majority rule world. And so you get the politicians pandering to the crowd, and the crowd, of course, often wants blood. The crowd wants to seize or booty. It wants to seize stuff from other people, not thinking ahead 2 steps about what that actually means for the future, not just the future of the people whose wealth is seized, but thinking ahead about the future of those who are seizing the wealth. Because if you start seizing the wealth of people like Jeff Bezos, taking more of it, taking more of the wealth of productive people, they will become less productive. And as they become less productive, our economy will become less productive, and our living standards suffer as a result.
So, Mr. Boudreaux, yesterday we found out that the pipeline, which has been a political football for more than a decade, the controversial project, they're definitely pulling the plug on it for now. So how are we going to get the oil from Canada into the U.S. because our need for oil is not going to stop?
Well, of course, I heard this morning some naive person say, "Oh, you know, it's a good thing that this pipeline has been scuttled because our future lies in green energy." And so this is a prediction for many decades to come. We're still going to need oil, so the oil is going to come here by rail. It's going to come here by older pipelines. It's going to come here, I suppose, also by trucks. It's never been clear to me why these methods of transporting oil between our two countries, the U.S. and our northern neighbor, why these methods are any somehow less environmentally dangerous or hazardous than a pipeline. The pipeline, of course, is a symbol. And so the environmentalists don't really care that it's a safer and more efficient means of transporting petroleum products. They want to destroy symbols of the energy industry, of the modern energy industry, which makes our life possible. Without fossil fuels, we would be, well, most of us wouldn't even be alive, quite frankly. And so it's fossil fuels that keep us alive. And but these people, they do not understand the importance of these fuels, and so they just rail away at the symbols. And unfortunately, they're having an impact. I think it's very frightening the degree of public influence these people seem to have.
Better for us to rely on our enemies like Russia and OPEC for our energy needs too. I guess it's great timing that Biden is going to meet with Putin because he needs to put in an order. Yeah.
But, you know, the environmental groups, trust me, as you know, within 24 hours, I'm sure they're going to send out brochures to their donor base saying, you know, we have succeeded in shutting down the Keystone pipeline, and the donors will take this as some kind of victory, not understanding the calamity. That's not a calamity, this one thing, but not understanding that it's part of a calamitous movement to reduce our ability to provide inexpensive energy to maintain our lifestyles.
Now, there's the news out this week that there are 9.3 million jobs that are unfilled right now that businesses would like to fill. It's a big number. It's hard for people to get around to get their arms around that and what the implications are. So let me try to make this concrete by just using an example of how serious the crisis is. Fox 8 in New Orleans reporting that Larry Flint's Hustler Club in New Orleans is experiencing what they call a national exotic dancer shortage. So much so that they're offering a $1,000 signing bonus to any new or returning entertainer, as I like to call them. National exotic dancer shortage. Now we got people's attention, Don.
Yeah, you got my. New Orleans is my hometown. Maybe I should go apply for it.
Sure. I don't know if they're looking for you, Don. Yeah.
Well,
are you flexible?
So this is by now, unfortunately, old news. So the government is paying huge amounts of money, making it unprofitable for a lot of, or certainly unattractive for a lot of people to return to work, and so people are staying on their couches, receiving their government checks, and employers are having a difficult time finding employees. And I just learned just now that includes exotic dancers.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
No surprise. By the way, these kinds of things are predictable. When as a congressman said, if you subsidize, if you pay for unemployment, you will get more unemployment.
Yep.
Right.
And that's what's happening.
But another great economist, Nancy Pelosi, said that unemployment benefits are stimulative. Is that not true?
Well, she said that, but I think we're seeing evidence now that is not the case.
Mm-hmm.
They stimulate people to stay out of the workforce.
That's a good way of putting it. Don Boudreaux, economist, author, professor, co-director of the program on the American economy and globalization at the Mercatus Center at George Mason University. Don, thanks as always.
My pleasure. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
The more you listen, the more you'll know. This is Chicago's Morning Answer. Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
The Lou Dobbs Financial Report is brought to you by Signature Bank, helping local businesses succeed. Visit signaturebank.bank for your commercial banking needs.
I'm Lou Dobbs. New solar panel plant being built in Ohio. Wholesale